Hello and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Eric, joined once again by
Tim, hi guys.
bringing you some more Desperate Housewives, Season 1, Episodes 13 to 15. Tommy will roll the credits and we'll chat. All right, so Episode 13 is called Your Fault. Starts out with Lynette fighting with her kids, as always. Lynette's trying to get Parker off the roof. We have a special guest star, Ryan O'Neal, guest stars as Grandpa, what's his name? Oh, Rodney. It's Tom's dad. So Rodney was Ryan O'Neal's character on Peyton Place, which I did not know at the time because I didn't watch Peyton Place until like last year. So, and it's kind of funny. So they mentioned his wife Allison. That was his love interest on Peyton Place too. So I was like, oh, that's so fun. Like they threw back to old soaps. Kind of cool. Um, so Rodney gets up there, he climbs up, and he calls them a girly girl. Basically, not really what you want to say to a kid. You're basically, calling him a sissy. So Lynette's not too excited to have Rodney there. Parker ends up coming down after he's called that. So I guess it worked. Lynette finds Rodney making out with some lady on the sofa. This lady's name's Lois. I don't think she's important. I don't know if she comes around later or whatever. And I think Parker. Do you remember what Parker found? I think it was like,
Oh,
was
we
it her
found
panties?
I think it was panties. It was panties, and she said, "Oh,
Was
I
it
was
panties?
doing wash or something, or must have gotten caught in my wash."
Oops. Lynette and Rodney talk. We find out that he cheated on his wife Allison. He says, "Mind your business," and then she kicks him out of the house. So he's only around for like 5 minutes, and he's already getting kicked out. Um, Tom goes to Lynette. He says his dad's been having affairs for years. And he basically says like he's impressed that his dad can still have an affair at his age. And then she kicks him out too. Kicks him to the curb. So they're both sitting on the curb with like his luggage, whatever. She didn't kick him out, but she kicked Rodney out. So later on, Lynette and Tom talk. She's upset that he condoned his dad's affairs. She threatens to leave him if he ever betrays her, and that he'll never see the kids again. Um, talks to his dad later, and he's like, "I did something, and I don't know if Lynette will ever be able to handle it." So he's harboring a secret. I don't remember what the secret is or when the secret comes out. So I am again curious. Um, and then Rodney ends up leaving at the end of the episode, and that's all I got for that. And I think it's you with Susan and
With
Julie
Susan,
and Zach.
okay. So in the very beginning, and go back to Lynette's story. Lynette, was yelling at her kids, like you said, and everything else, and Parker's on the roof. She looks over. Susan kind of gives her a glance, sort of judging her because she can't get her kids under control. A few minutes later, Susan or Lynette catches Susan and Julie arguing, and she gives her the same look back. Like no one's life is perfect, no one's house is perfect. All these families have these issues. It's just some people hide it again behind their picket fences. Um,
And Julie's girl is teen now. So, I mean,
yeah,
Lynette has young kids running around. So
it's different, and
they,
also
they
a
give the
teenager's
mom
going to
look.
mouth back. A teenager's going to mouth
Right.
back. They're going to argue. Little kids get into trouble. So we go
Yeah.
into a scene where Susan walks in her house, and she walks in and on Julie and Zach kissing. Um, she kind of eavesdrops a little bit. She surprises them and everything. Um, Basically, Zach says that they sold the house. They're moving in a month. Zach's there. He
Mm.
ends up, I think Julie ends up going upstairs, but Zach there, he confronts Susan, and basically they start to argue. And you see a little bit of his rage come out. You see that there's something not right with Zach.
He gets
And
dark.
Yeah, very dark, very very dark kid. I feel bad he's trouble, but again, it's that past. It's those secrets in
Yeah.
Wisteria Lane. Um,
Yep.
so basically, she says you're not to see my daughter, and she kicks him out of the house. So you're not welcome here. Um,
Yep.
Later, Susan is in the house. We flash forward to Susan again in the house, and Julie gets a phone call. Susan ends up eavesdropping. She listens in, and it's Zach and
Mhm.
Julie talking. And the little secret about Dana comes out. Did you tell your mom about Dana? And Susan almost gets caught. Like Susan does, she fumbles. It's a comedic little scene, whatever. Do you hear that? What is that? She hangs up. But Susan is aware that Julie knows about Dana.
So
Um,
I think at this point too, like Julie, I think plans on still seeing Zach. Like I don't think she really has it in her head to like not see him until, you know.
she kind of does. And what teenager, when your parents say no, not to do something, what
Hmm.
teenager doesn't do it?
Yep.
I did the same thing when my
Makes you want
parents
to
told
do
me
it
not to
more.
see certain people. We all do.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
teenagers. It's that angst, hormones, everything raging through their bodies.
Hmm.
Um, I know, right? Later, we go to a scene with Susan, and Susan volunteers to chaperone at the school dance, and they say they can. I think she talks to Julie, but says we can talk about anything, right? You can tell me everything that's going on in your life. Part of this scene, they go to, Zach is in the scene in and out and everything else. Paul and Zach are talking. So he basically tells him that he's tying his tie, I guess, for the school dance. And he says, all these things happened. It's not your fault. We remember things differently when we're children, things that happen. He's trying to say like it didn't happen. But he said he couldn't help but remember blood screaming. And he remembers the name Dana and he thinks he killed Dana. And basically, at this point, he says something about, did you tell anyone? Paul says, did you tell anyone? And he says, I told Julie. Well, did she tell Susan? So now Paul's starting to worry. Who else knows his and Mary Alice and Zach's secret? It's,
Their deep dark secret.
yeah, deep, dark secret, and you're trying to contain it. So the dance
Hmm.
comes. Zach ends up bringing Julie a corsage, I think, at the dance. Julie says he says it's kind of old fashioned, whatever. And I didn't know if I should give it to you or not. I didn't want you to feel like you're standing out. And she says, I like to stand out. She's a teenager. Um, so Bree is also with Susan chaperoning the school dance. Paul surprises everybody. He's chaperoning too.
Hmm.
Um, at one scene, Paul ends up asking Susan to dance. And this is where he has a little conversation about everything that happened. He said, like, did Julie talk to you? She said she kind of was accidentally eavesdropping and she heard the story about Dana. Who's Dana? Um, and this is where he says something about, this didn't actually happen. It was in a past life. Things aren't as they seem. And Mary Alice and I would appreciate if you'd keep your discretion. Um, they said that Zach didn't do it. I think they said Zach didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it was an awkward scene, but you could see Susan was a little bit awkward dancing with Paul. And
Well,
Paul's,
is this where we find out that did he say Dana's alive? Because that's what I have as a note there.
I think that's what they said. I'm a little confused on that part.
Because I have Paul comes clean about Zach killing Dana, and he says don't tell, and then
Yeah.
that Dana's alive or something.
Yes, they didn't kill her. That's what I think he said. But there's still that confusion over Deidre and Dana. So it's like, well, who is
Yeah.
who? We still don't know the difference
And
between the two of them.
we don't know if Paul's like hiding something or lying. We don't really
Yeah.
know, or trying to throw her off the trail of basically covering up for his son or not.
Yeah. It gets just awkward because its story gets more complex. So Paul's at the dance. He's talking to Zach. He asks if he has a good time. And Zach says, sorry, I talked to Julie. And he says to Zach, Paul says to Zach, your memories aren't true. You did not kill anyone. Dana is alive. That's where he says Dana's alive. He
Mm,
didn't say it to Susan. I think he said it to Zach. But it was at
okay.
the school dance or leaving the school dance. Maybe he did say it to Susan. But
Yeah, I don't remember.
it's one of those surprises. And you can see Zach looks confused because he has all these memories. To go forward with Zach and Paul, because we're going back and forth between Susan and Zach. Zach and Paul something about, "Are you okay? You didn't need to just run your mouth." He says he's staying with Julie. Zach says he's staying with Julie. Basically, he says, "We're moving. You're not staying with Julie. We're leaving." And he says, "What if I refuse?"
Hmm.
And I think, does he walk out of the house? What happens here? I forget.
The only last note I have on that is Zach blackmails Paul into not moving. He
Basically, he
says
says
he'll
we're not
tell all the
moving. I think he'll
secrets.
release
Yeah,
the family secrets.
whatever he
Um,
knows or remembers, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Oh, this is actually where Susan and Zach kind of confront. Zach goes over, "Is Julie home? I have good news. We're not moving." And I think he brings a flower, or maybe there are flowers from the dance or something. There's flowers there. He picks one up and he
Yeah.
says how Julie is perfect. Susan says, "I want to do like any mother does, want to protect my child." Zach starts to get angry, and that's where he crushes the flower. That's where you see his rage comes out. He flips out,
Hmm.
and she kicks him out and says, "You're not welcome here. You're not welcome to date my daughter." Um,
Yeah.
that's pretty much all the story I have there for Susan. So,
Um. So
on to
Gabby, I
Gabby.
guess I don't think Gabby's on that. Well, yeah, a little bit for Gabby.
A little bit.
So Carlos, Gabby, are on. Helen and Bob come to see her. That is, what's his name? The gardener, Jesse. Wait, Jesse Metcalf. But I'm totally blanking on his name.
John. John.
John, thank you. John's parents come to see her. They want her to talk to John about going to college. I guess he's talking about just getting a career, basically, so he can just move in with Gabby and take care of her, is basically what he's thinking. Helen threatens to go to the police if she does not talk to John to, because it was statutory rape, basically, since he was underage at the time. Still is, I think. Is he 17 or 18? I think he's 18
I
now,
think he's
right?
18, and I
But
believe,
they started their affair when he was 17,
yeah, and
I
the
think.
laws, I know laws are different in Europe and probably in Australia and other countries. I know
Right.
US is usually 18, and some states is 16, which is awkward, but it is,
Yeah.
back then it was still statutory rape here in the US.
Hmm. Gabby goes to see John. She hasn't returned his calls or anything, I guess because she's taking care of Carlos and stuff and trying to, she's actually working now because she's the sole income for them. I know, Gabby cracks me up. He tries to give her a kiss. She says, not that. He wants to do his own lawn business and take care of her and ask her to marry him. Helen goes to Gabby. She wants the ring back. She asks she asks Rob, wait, what? Why Rob doesn't hate her. And he's like, "Oh, I was a teen once, I would have loved like basically a piece of ass like you at the time." It's like, whatever. It was a little awkward, I felt like. Um, Gabby returned John's ring. He's upset, throws a glass. She tells him he's a sweet, dumb toy. Basically, she's pushing him away because she has to.
Yeah.
Um, for his own good. Because like when he leaves, like you could tell she clearly cares about this boy. But she can't do anything about it. She could get arrested. So sorry, girl. And then Bree, end with Bree.
Oh, right. So we opened with a scene with Bree and Rex, and they're with their lawyers, basically trying to settle the divorce. The lawyers are haggling over everything. Um, Bree thinks that she wants to keep the tennis membership. They argue back and forth, and she wants it basically because Rex wants it. Rex is a doctor. Rex plays tennis. It's kind of like golf. It's one of those social things that people with money do. It's a networking kind of club.
Mm,
So they argue back and forth. We go to the next scene. Bree is scrubbing her stove. She's not talking to Rex. Um, what else? Oh no, yeah, she's scrubbing her stove. They're talking back and forth. They're talking about the china. He wants the family china. She says you'll never use it. He says he'll use it for takeout. He's basically, they're trying to spite each other. It's an ugly
yeah.
like bonfire of the vanities. It's this ugliness in
Mm,
divorce. Bree says, well, then fine, I'll take the golf club membership. Um, and they get interrupted, and she says it's time for your meds. So Bree, for all of her
mhm,
being upset at Rex, she still cares for him. She's worried about him. She's taking care of him. And he says, I don't understand why you can't forgive me. Can't we find a way to be happy? Bree wants nothing but revenge. Her heart is broken. For someone who played by the rules, who did everything she was supposed to, her heart's broken. Um,
Yep.
they went on back and forth, and he said, well, you're having an affair right now against me. And she says, I'm not. I'm not having an affair with the pharmacist. I wouldn't do anything. Um,
Yeah, she was just dating him, I think,
yeah, she's just dating him. And it's
at
basically to
this
get
point.
back at Rex. And it's so she can feel good
Right.
about herself. Nothing really happens.
Yeah, because
We
George was
go,
into her.
yeah. We fast forward after they have their argument. She gives him his meds and everything. Bree is at a diner. Now, you would never picture Bree, her pearls, her cashmere sweaters at a diner. But
Nope.
she's there, and George happens to walk in, which makes me think George is stalking her. Because how does George just happen to walk in the diner and find her?
Mhm.
She ends up inviting George to sit with her for what she says is a dreadful cup of coffee. Um, she starts to say how they start talking about Rex and everything. Their diner was the first date, so it brings her back to her memories. It brings her back to a time of innocence, the beginning. She needs time to think. um, why would someone like why would you marry him? And she's not, really unsure what to do with Rex. So, and I forget what the heck his name is.
George.
George. George suggests, why don't you forgive him? As he's clutching his fist under the table. Again, you see this hidden rage in this other person. Zach has it. George has it. Bree sneaks in the house at 2 a.m. past Rex, who's asleep on the couch, but Rex isn't asleep. He catches Bree sneaking in. We go forward to Rex at the pharmacy picking up his medication.
Yep.
Um,
Dummy.
they talk about George, or he mentions about going out with my wife. And he said, oh, I met her at the diner. We're just friends. And then Rex kind of threatens him and says, be careful. Bree isn't interested in you in anything more than a friendship. She's not you. She wouldn't date a pharmacist. She's married to a doctor. And he kind of throws in George's face. So he asks for
Anyone
his
out
meds. He
there,
said,
don't anyone out there, don't threaten your pharmacist.
no, don't don't threaten your pharmacist, your cook, anything like that, your doctor.
Right, right, right.
Even someone that does like acupuncture would never threaten them. But
No.
he basically says girls like her end up with doctors, not pharmacists. That's his exact lines. So he says, George, I like my meds. That's what Rex says. So George is looking and he sees Mr. Van Kamp's meds and he goes, you know what? I'm so sorry. I just don't see them here. I'll call you when they're ready. Or do you want me to deliver them? And he goes in the back and he basically opens up the meds and dumps them out. So you kind of like, what does he do? And I think later on, I think the meds do get delivered. But it's a little creepy because I'm like, he's kid.
Yeah, they get delivered, but I think it's like sugar pills or something. Like I
It's
think
something else. It's heart medication you should be taking.
yeah.
Rex had a heart attack. It might be, let's say it's nitro. I don't even know what it is. But
I believe
he's
I
taking the
actually
wrong.
know how this ends for Rex.
Oh, I
But
know, I know. It's kind of
I
this
believe I
is setting all
remember.
up,
Yeah.
and I think that's pretty much their storyline. It ends right there.
Yeah, I
Um,
think at the end I have like Zach and Jolie meet up, so I guess they're still seeing each other at this point.
they do. I think
But
that's during the credits. They sneak out together.
yeah. So episode 14 is Love is in the Air. It has special guest star Katherine Joosten as Karen McCluskey. I
Oh,
totally kind of forgot about her, and then when she came on, I was like, oh, I remember she plays a big part in this show.
she does. She starts
Um,
out so small, and she's a huge character as the show develops.
yeah, yeah, she's funny. So it starts out, of course, with Lynette and the kids. They show that she gets all this art and random things from the kids, from schools, like we all did, for our parents in school. Jewelry, the things that the kids give her through the years. She finally gets something that she actually likes. It's a plant that she's happy with. We have this new person, well, I guess old neighbor that's been there that we haven't seen yet until episode 14. Karen McCluskey comes to take her plant back. So kids took her plant, of course, because we know these boys are troublesome. Um, and Tom forgets Valentine's Day.
Mm.
The kids hide from Lynette. Mike talks them into going home. I guess they were out and Mike saw them. Lynette lets them pick what? Lets them pick what to hit them with. Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
She's like, do you want the spatula? Do you want a shoe? Like, what am I gonna hit you
The
with for doing
hairbrush.
this? A hairbrush. She has them write an apology letter, and calls it psychological warfare, is her plan to take care of her children. Karen McCluskey comes in. Lynette's looking for a wall clock that Miss McCluskey had lost or whatever is missing, and she blames the kids. She tells her kids, oh, Miss McCluskey says she'd be better off raised by wolves, the kids,
Mhm.
basically insulting Lynette as a parent. Lynette and McCluskey fight. Um, she says, I think Karen wants them to move their bikes out of the street.
Oh.
Um, Lynette doesn't let that happen. So Karen runs over the bike. And then Lynette throws eggs because she had just gotten home from the store and she throws an egg at her car.
Yeah.
Um, a little bit later, Lynette is on the phone with the insurance company. Tom finds stuff hidden in the boys' playhouse. And there's Karen's wall clock thing. Um, Lynette and Tom uh, are having dinner at home. He says apologize to Miss McCluskey. She says fine, I'll deal with whatever, I'll do it. Just, you got to get along with your neighbors sometimes. Lynette sends the boys to apologize. She invites them in for tea. Lynette kind of waits outside. Um, McCluskey talks to the boys and says that her son died when he was 12, so we find out a little bit of history with her. She gives them peanut brittle. Um, she's like, it's wrong what you did, but nice that you wanted to give Lynette a present for Valentine's Day. So it's a little sweet moment with Miss McCluskey because we do see that she has a little bit of a heart. She's not just
Yeah.
I mean, she is getting her stuff stolen. Got to give her that. Whatever. I'm sure it is annoying. Um, Lynette does talk to Susan at some point, but that's more of your story. So
Mhm.
I'll leave you with that. And I think that's all I got for her. Next up is, I don't know. Paul, the ladies meet up about Zach killing Dana at one point, basically just to touch base. Who do you have as first, Susan?
I'll do Bree. So Bree's with the therapist, and I'm trying to think what the heck this scene was about. They talk about Zach's infidelity. He says you have unresolved issues about it, and she is still trying to piece why everything together. She said, "Why is he
Rex's
hiding something?"
infidelity. Rex's
Yeah, Rex's
infidelity.
infidelity. Yes. Who did I say?
You said Zach.
I didn't say the character. Zach. Zach. No. Zach at his age probably
Not the
had no
kid.
infidelities. Yeah.
You're
Right.
right.
So Bree is still trying to figure out what she did wrong, and then he says, "Bree, I can't discuss these issues." But I think are they at a restaurant at this point?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
They might be at a
I don't think I
restaurant. I
took
think
any
that's where
notes
he
on that.
basically says, "Well, they're billable hours or something." Maybe they're not at the restaurant,
Hmm.
but um, he basically says, "You see." She talks about repressing her issues, and she said, "It's what we WASP do. We throw elegant dinner parties and we push our emotions down because they never address the elephant in the room. She'll never deal with her emotions. She doesn't talk about the uncomfortable. Everything is pleasant, picture perfect, a world like Martha Stewart created, and that's Brie Vandekamp.
Hmm.
So she talks about that's what we do. We push down our emotions and we throw dinner parties. So we go to Valentine's Day and they joke around. I think it's Bree and Rex joke around about what are we doing for Valentine's Day, and he said, "Well, I'm going to do like I usually do, roses and English toffee. That's her thing. That's what she likes. She likes very vanilla, very boring things." And he brings this up, and he says, "She says, what would you like? You know, in their normal coital affair, whatever. I guess they normally have sex on Valentine's Day. It's probably birthdays, Valentine's Day. It's like very
Yeah,
regimented,
special
calendared
occasion.
in and scheduled. Very
Yep.
vanilla." And he says, "Well, that's boring to me." And this is where he tells her, like, what did this other woman have that I don't? Why did you go to her? And he says, "Look, Bree, I like to be dominated," which is weird because Bree sort of does dominate her house, but not in the way
Yeah.
Rex likes. He wants to be dominated sexually. You know, he wants the whips, the chains, the stiletto heels in his back, like we
Doesn't he?
saw earlier.
Doesn't he whip
Earlier,
out a tape? Because she does. She's like confused by it. She's like, "What do you
yes, they
mean?"
watched the tape, I think, and she's like, "What?" She's like,
Yeah.
"How can I do this?" Um, so it's a little awkward. And she's like, "You want me to hurt you, and so you can feel pleasure?" And he's like, "Yes, yes, I want this." So
What he
he's
wants.
got a little kink to him. Um,
Hmm.
which again, it's a shocker for Brie. And then after that, there is. I don't think there's a lot more. There's actually nothing really more with Brie. I think they attempt to do things in a scene. I don't have anything
Yeah, I
else about
think
her.
so.
Oh, they
Yeah, I
go to
just
um,
okay.
they find them in bed, and basically, she says, "How does this domination thing work?" So, and I think that's where he kind of explains, like, "Trust me, you'll like it. Let's explore this together." And I don't think they really show anything. I think as he breaks out the handcuffs,
Right.
um, and they really don't show anything that they do there. Obviously, it was ABC primetime 8 p.m. They can't show a lot. They can just suggest.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty much it with their storyline.
So Gabby's fighting with the agency on the phone. Someone was hitting on her, whatever. She's over it. Um, her and her maid fight. Um, her maid's like, you're gonna be old one day, and Gabby's like, you're so fired. Like she's just over her crap. So, and she basically has to fire her anyway because they have no money.
They can't pay
So,
her.
yeah. So I guess she was kind of like maybe forcing a fight just to fire her, basically. Um, so Gabby works at this mattress place. She thinks she's doing like a photo shoot, but she's there to lay in the bed and basically sell beds. Um,
Funniest scene ever.
it really is.
Everyone that tries to snuggle up
Um,
with her.
yeah. Yeah, she's just laying there like, oh, I hate my life.
I think at one point she even had
Um,
like teenage boys laying in bed with her. She had a lesbian couple laying on either side of her.
yes.
You know, it was just that weird, funny thing.
The best part is when Gabby puts up a sign, please don't talk to model on the
Yeah.
mattress, and the mattress dude fires her. So Gabby gets another job at a beauty shop or like Sears or something where she's like in the beauty section or something. Her maid comes in, um, and she, of course, the maid takes advantage of the situation and she's like, I want lipstick now, like demanding Gabby to give her stuff because Gabby has to or she'll lose her job. Um, Gabby tells her how she got everything. Uh, as she does. Wait, what? I don't even know. Everything she wants in life, whatever.
She started from the
Um,
bottom and basically worked for it, and she got it, and she's going to do it again.
right. And she'll do it again. Basically telling, not putting the maid in her place, but something kind of like that. Um, and that's all I have for them. And then at the end, I have her hugging Carlos with whatever was going on at the end, which I think might have to do with Susan and Mike.
Yeah.
So go on, Susan.
Okay, so Susan, in the beginning scene, we see Susan making a handmade card for Mike. You know, she's the artist. She illustrates children's books and things like that. So she's making a lovely handmade card. And you see Mike making reservations for a fancy restaurant for Valentine's Day. You know, exciting. They're
Hmm.
going out to dinner. Um,
Being romantic.
very, very romantic, but people do little gestures. You open to another scene of Susan and Julie talking Mike wants babies. Julie says, "Have you told Mike how you feel? You're overreacting. Um, you're the only baby I want, and everything else. I don't need other children." Mike is
Yeah.
inside someone's house, looking around. He's trying to find clues about Dana, Deirdre, whatever. And Mike breaks in, and he thinks no one's home. He goes inside a room, and you see an old man trembling. The old man shoots him with a gun. Mike begs him, please, please don't. And to go to Mike's storyline later,
Who patches them up? Isn't somebody
someone that the guy hires, I think the guy that, I
right?
forget the guy's name, but the guy that hired Mike actually has a doctorate. He said, he's not going to
But he
stop.
can't go to the hospital, yeah.
He can't go to the hospital because, again, we don't know a lot about Mike, but he's sort of hired as like a private investigator, and he just got shot. So the guy's pulling out the bullet. Um, we
And he should
go
have canceled
to.
his date with Susan, but he didn't.
He didn't. You thought he would. You think he would, but he didn't. He really likes
Right.
Susan.
Yeah.
So we go to a scene of them at the restaurant. They're seated, and this is a really funny scene. There's a guy at a table, and the table's unsteady, so he's trying to put something underneath one of the legs of the table to steady it. And they seat Mike and Susan. The guy's still under the table. Susan is wearing a short dress, and she sits down, and the guy's under the table. As she sits down and puts a napkin in her lap, she sees the guy's face because he's under the tablecloth trying to straighten the table. She screams. She jumps back. She knocks over, I think, a tray, water, whatever.
Yeah.
The guy comes out, greatest apologies, knocks someone else down. Mike goes to help, I think, the person up. And this is where Mike basically pulls the stitches out from where he was shot. So
Yeah.
Mike starts to bleed, and he's sitting there at the table at the dinner, and it's getting a little bit uncomfortable for him. You can see him sweating. You see him touching. He looks at his coat. He lifts it up, and you see the blood on the white shirt.
Right.
So, I mean, it was an awkward situation. And, of course, Susan creates all this awkwardness.
Always.
Always.
With Susan.
She's like a tornado.
Yep.
But he's bleeding out. He just gets up and says, I have to go. And she's like, Mike, I don't understand. What's the matter? She's like, what did I do? And then he collapses on the floor. They call for an ambulance and everything. Mike ends up in the hospital. And she's like, I can't believe this happened. What happened? He said, I was cleaning my gun. Earlier, we found the gun in the cabinet. She found that at his house. He says, I was cleaning the gun. I dropped it and it went off. So it was a self-inflicted gun wound. She's walking away from the hospital bed, and the police walk in because the hospital has to report it. The hospital staff doesn't believe that this actually happened. But they have to report it, so they're investigating. And I think what they do, it's almost like a car accident. When a car accident happens, they investigate to see, hey, does this car fit any descriptions for any hit and runs, accidents in the area? Basically, he was shot by a gun, so they're looking to see, does this man fit any descriptions for robberies, theft, murder, whatever. So the police come in to question him. I think that's all I have for him. The one person...
Okay. Yeah. The Lynette and Susan thing comes up, and that has to do with the Lynette storyline where
it does.
The jewelry was found. It was with the kids took it from Mike's workbench. The jewelry that Paul planted at Mike's.
Martha, it has her name on it, Martha Huber.
Martha Huber's jewelry.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that they're like, something's going on, something's shady, and now Mike's involved with that now because of, for them. So things are going to get super awkward.
Yeah, and it kind of closes there, and that actually opens the next episode. But
I had somebody found pics of Angela. I don't know why I have that note. Oh, I think it was, what's that neighbor's name?
Martha Huber's sister, the one that she was in Frasier. I forget her name now. Felicia.
Felicia. How did we forget that?
We love Felicia. We do.
I forgot it too. I actually have a blank space there. But I have blank finds pics of Angela. So she recognized Angela was Mary Alice. So like she recognizes her. So I know this is a thing that comes up later on, I think. So are we done? Yeah, we're done that one.
Episode 15.
Yeah. Episode 15, Impossible. Starts out with Bree. Hit it.
Okay, so They talk about Brie and they talk about old fashioned values and they talk about for her it's God, family, and country. You know, Brie's this God fearing Christian. She's proud of her country, whatever, and her family. Everything is picture perfect. This ideal world. She's doing wash, and she happens to find a condom in the wash. So she immediately confronts Rex. Rex is like, "It's not mine." She's like, "Oh, please, you had infidelity." It's like, "It's not mine." And then she's like, "Well, it has to be yours. Who else could it be?" She's like, "He says, I'm not the only male in this house, Brie." And she can't even fathom her 16-year-old son is having sex. But again, most people start around 16, 18, whatever. So she can't fathom it. She basically, she says, "What do I do? I can't picture my baby doing that." He said, "Confront him or put it back or throw it out. Don't even do it." So she does all the wash. She puts the condom on top. We go forward to a scene of dinner. You know, everything's perfect in the Van de Kamp household.
So now she's
And
thinking it's Andrew.
I'm sorry?
She's thinking it's Andrew's
She's
condom.
thinking it's Andrew's. So they're sitting at the table eating, and the comment comes up about the condom. And she says, "I left it in your room." And basically, in the earlier scene, Rex says, "We don't want to be grandparents. You need to either confront him or act like it didn't happen. We don't want to be grandparents. He's a smart kid. He's using protection." So at dinner, this condom conversation comes up, and Andrew laughs and thinks it's hilarious. And she says, "This isn't funny, Andrew." He goes, "It is because it's not mine." "Well, it's not yours, and it's not your father's. Whose is it?" Danielle goes, "I hate you."
Danielle?
It's Danielle. So this goes into more storyline. Again, Bree's picture perfect family is collapsing all around her. She confronts Danielle. "How could you do this to me?" She says, "Mom, please don't worry. You're the president of the abstinence club, you know, at school, whatever." Says, "I'm still a virgin, Mom, but I do one day plan to have sex." "Well, why would you do this now?" She goes, I want to give my virginity. And she basically says she wants to give her virginity to John, who she was sort of dating. John broke up with her. And I think John was dating her as a cover up so people didn't suspect the whole Gabby issue.
Yeah. Well, I think John was trying to move on,
I think so.
because Gabby was with her husband.
Yeah.
So, but he's crushing on her too much, and she keeps pulling her back into her web. Gabby does. So
Yeah. So
forget
one
about it.
comment Daniel makes here, and this is kind of shocking because again, Bree has this picture perfect family. She thinks she does. The whole world thinks she does. She's trying to give her advice on sex, and Danielle says, "You're the last person to give me on advice on sex and happiness. Dad cheated on you, you know." And it sort of
Hmm.
throws Bree's already. She's questioning her inaccuracies. She's feeling very vulnerable, like everything
Yeah.
she's done in her life. So we go forward to a scene where John actually gets a knock at his door. It's Bree. Bree goes to visit him at his apartment. And they have a conversation. He says, "Look, Mrs. Van de Kamp, I did not sleep with your daughter. There's kind of someone else I liked, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Oh, thank God." He said, "Do you want me to tell her?" And she says, first she says no. And she goes, "No, I want you to," he said, "I'll let her down gently." She says, "No, I want you to let her down brutally. Like, basically, I want you to break her heart, to get over you and everything else, like, to be done with this." And he said, "I don't have any interest in your daughter. She's a really nice girl. She's beautiful. She's sweet, but she's not for me," is what she says.
Yeah.
So we go forward to a scene. I'll actually get to that part later. That's the end of the Bree storyline
All
because I
right.
think I can't talk
So
about John and Julie till later.
yeah.
Um, yeah, John and Danielle.
Okay. So Lynette says, um, wouldn't oh I made a note that Lynette made it like said that she would not put it past her twins if they killed Mrs. Huber as a joke. So
Horrible joke.
yeah, I think they call the police and they report the jewelry, I believe. Um, Tom didn't get the vice president position at work. He's been at the firm for 8.5 years. I forget what he is again. He's a
Something in marketing, but I don't remember exactly what he does.
like Darren Stevens on Bewitched. Advertising, I believe.
Advertising, yeah. Yeah.
Um, he kicks the kids outside because I guess they're being annoying as always. Um, Tom and Lynette, he's playing ball. He's talking smack. Oh, they're playing baseball. He's talking smack about the guy that took his vice president job, and the dude falls like as he's
Oh,
running,
flat on
and
his face.
yeah, and I'm like, is he dead? But I think he's just in the hospital. The guy's name is Tim.
Yep, yep. Oh, time for another
Um,
Timmy. Yep.
and Tim needed triple bypass surgery. And he'll be out of work, I think, 4.5 months. So Tom got the VP, um, the vice president, or he's up for it for the whole West Coast. So I guess he's going to be really busy going up and down, doing whatever he's got to do for the company. Lynette is not excited about this because she has all the children to take care of without no husband if he's going to be this busy. Um, she thought it was an in-house position, but it's not. Um, she says her career was important too, and he says he's going to take the job anyway. Basically, pissing her off. Like, so I would be fuming too. I mean, like, they're parents of how many kids? Four
I
at
think
this
that this,
point?
yes, yes, because Penny is born. I think Penny is born.
The
She's a baby.
twins, Penny, yeah. So Lynette goes to see Tom at work with the kids. The boss's wife is there. She said she convinced Dugan, her husband, I guess, to make Tom the vice president. Lynette says, well, like, if he gets this job, it's a shame. I mean, it's a great job, but, Tom's gonna miss the kids' birthdays and holidays and all of this stuff, and he'll be too busy. And she was making it look really tragic for her and the kids. So Lynette and Tom are in bed later on. He tells her that he is, oh, that, what's his name, is holding the promotion for Tim till he gets back. So nobody's going to be vice president, I guess. I'm sure they'll all kind of rotate and do whatever they got to do up and down the West Coast. Tom says he's glad it worked out this way, which obviously he doesn't mean because he was trying to take the job without caring about what it did to his wife. So I feel like Lynette was totally justified to do what she had to do to keep this man
Yeah.
in place. And go ahead, take it away with Susan.
Okay, so we're gonna open the scene with Susan. There's a scene pretty early on, right after they do the whole brie with the condom thing. The girls are talking around a table, and they're talking about Lynette had presented the last episode, presented the jewelry. All the girls are sitting around. What do we do? They're like, you can't trust Mike. You don't know. He lied about being shot. Maybe he was self-inflicted. Bree I think she sort of doubts it's self-inflicted. Bree knows guns. She's part of the NRA. She has guns.
Yep.
They're going back and forth what to do. They'll call the police. Gabby says, no, you need to stand by your man, believe what he says. And then there's a moment where she kind of doubts, and she's like, call the police. Susan says, call the police. So they go, one of the girls calls the police, and Susan, I guess, gives her testimony or what she believes happened, So we're going to go to Susan and Mike. There was 2 days went by. She hadn't talked to him. So she says, or he says, are you avoiding me? You haven't answered my calls for 2 years. She goes, no, I'm just busy. And she's holding groceries. And right as she's talking to him, behind him, you see the police coming up really quick out of the car silently. They're pulling guns. They're running. They're telling her to get down. And she's like, Mike, can you hold this for me? She looks nervous. She hands him the bag, and Susan face plants into the dirt as they go up and grab him, like tackle him and arrest him.
Right.
So later in a scene, the police come to Susan's house, and they ask what Mike was doing on, I think it was the 7th of the last month, or a certain night of the last month. I believe it was the 7th. She says, oh, yes, Mike and I were together alone, because they basically say that a man's house was broken into, whatever. Oh, no, they didn't say that. But what were you doing that night? She says, oh, that was the first time. And she stops herself. And they said, first time for what? And then Julie says it's the first time they had intimacy, basically, the first time they had sex. And she looks at Julie like, Julie, what are you doing? She goes, Mom, come on. I know. I hear noises. She made heart-shaped pancakes the next day. And then she goes,
Right.
no, don't write that down. She's like, write it down. She made heart-shaped pancakes. So basically, she's the alibi for Mike. The day where this Martha Huber was killed, he was with her that night at 10 p.m. So we go forward to another scene, and Susan is called down to the police station, and they ask her a few questions. And she goes there. They're asking questions. How long have you been seeing? Things like that. Were you aware that there was a man? Were you aware that he had a gunshot? And they said guns don't go off on their own when you drop them. Those kind of guns don't go off when you drop them. And then basically they start to say that there was a man who, it was basically a robbery. This man we think shot Mike. She said, no, he's my boyfriend. I trust him, blah, blah, blah. And they pulled a file and it says Mike Delfino. And they talk about his, what was it, assault charges, drug charges, and murder charges. Mike Delfino has a record. They say, I'm going to get coffee. Would you like coffee? They walk out of the room and you see Susan grab the file, start to look at it, and you see a panicked Susan. She doesn't know what to do. Shock. She's in shock. So
she cares about this man. She's been with him for I don't know how long at this point.
Yeah, he's the neighbor. And
although there's a lot of stuff that kind of pointed in that direction that she's found throughout these episodes, though. So I mean, I feel like I wouldn't be too surprised.
But, and I think that's where she starts to put pieces together. Like, okay, maybe that money, maybe the gun in his house, maybe all these awkward things.
And he probably could have killed Mrs. Huber. Basically.
Yeah, so she starts to doubt it. But the time frame, if he killed Mrs. Huber, he was at her house.
Right.
Night. So she's still like conflicted. She likes him, but her world is crumbling down. So Susan comes home. Mike approaches her. And there's this whole thing. She's shocked. She tells him to get away. How can you do this? You're a liar. You're a killer and a drug dealer. I don't know you. Just get away from me. She basically says she has to protect her heart. Get away from me. And he's kind of devastated. Yeah. So we're going to go back just a little bit to the scene that involves Susan.
The party.
There's a scene where it sort of involves Susan, but Zach invites Julie to a party. He hands out a formal invitation. No one writes handwritten invitations. It's a handwritten invitation to a pool party. Basically, Paul's letting him have a party because Zach is bribing Paul, his father. So you go forward to another scene, and some of the kids talk. Are you going to go to the party? I don't know. They're like, who writes? I think Danielle says, like, who writes a formal invitation? Andrew makes fun of it. We fast forward to the party, and actually, I think you didn't do the Gabby scene yet, right? You did do Gabby.
No,
not
yet.
We just fast forward to the party. I'll leave that surprise at the end. We fast forward to the party's happening. It's awkward and everything else. And Julie is there. It's a weird party. Andrew shows up. Andrew's friends are being jerks. John, and I'm going to tell this storyline because it kind of interconnects with the rest.
Yeah,
John basically goes and talks to Danielle and breaks her heart. He is brutal to her. Danielle's crying. Yeah. She's all upset. She runs off. And then Julie and Zach are talking. And because Andrew's being a jerk, Zach makes a comment, I can take care of him. And she's like, what do you mean by that? She's like, well, I know where my mom's gun is. She's like, Zach, that's not funny. And he laughs and goes, it kind of is. So she starts to see that Zach is not all okay. Zach was already in a mental institution. Zach has made some threatening things. Her mother said some things. All these things are making her think, I'm not safe with this guy. I need to get out. She leaves. Right. Danielle, she sees Danielle crying.
Yeah, Danielle's she kind of sees the dark side, so she's like nervous.
She starts to realize, and she's smart. She's like, I need to pull back. I need to get away. She goes to leave the party, and she sees Danielle crying. And she says, Danielle, are you okay? And she said, no, I'm not. Can you take me home? So Julie, being the kind neighbor, Julie's always a sweetheart. Julie takes Danielle home. So we go forward to a scene where, and I'll let you finish the story off because it interties with you. Yeah. Susan comes home from whatever. Maybe she just had the argument with Mike because I think she left and she came back. When she left to go to the store, Julie snuck over to the party. She forbid Julie from going. She came
Yep.
home and she just had the argument with Mike. She goes, and Julie, and Julie's not answering. Julie's textbooks are sitting at the table opened. Julie's nowhere in the house. She looks across the street and realizes there's balloons across the street. She figures Julie
Oh.
goes over to the party, so she goes over to look. She
Mm.
asked 2 kids in the front of the house, "Hey, have you seen my daughter Julie Meyer?" I know she's probably not there. The party's dead. At this point, everyone has left the party. She goes in looking for her daughter, and she walks into the pool. And I'm not going to give this part away, but there's
And
people in the pool.
she thinks the daughter's in the pool, but it ends up being
It
2
ends up being
guys,
someone
which
else, which we'll
has
let
to
you get to
do
your
with
storyline. I'll leave
yes,
it
has
there.
to do with my Gabby. Um, so Justin, a friend of John's,
Mm.
visits Gabby about John. He's like, "Oh, while John's not doing it anymore, I'll do your lawn, I'll give you any extra attention." Basically trying to sleep with this woman, because she slept with John. She tells him that Carlos is angry about the government and wants someone to take it out on, to basically threaten him, like, don't try this, boy, like, I could play your game.
There's really one
Um,
funny line I want to interrupt you that he says.
yeah.
He offers, "I can take care of your lawn, your gardens, whatever. I can trim your bushes." And he looks at him and goes, "The only man that will be trimming my bushes is my husband." I love that
Right.
line.
So Gabby brings past due notices to Carlos. She freaks out. He seems very calm, cool, and collected about it. I guess because she's the working woman now and he's not able to do anything. We see Justin mowing the lawn. Justin creeps around. He wants to hang with Gabby. He comes on to her. She slaps him. He threatens to tell Carlos about her and John. He's like, I need you to be nice to me at least once. So one roll in the hay he's trying to push for now. Gabby gets to talk to John about Justin. He says he can't talk to him about it. Um, Justin says that he might be gay. So he wanted to try to sleep with her to prove that he wasn't. Gabby and Justin talk. He says he has a guy that he cares about. He wanted to test drive someone or something. She says test drive someone your own age. Um, he says he would never have said anything to Carlos. She kisses him like on the lips or whatever. She's like, how do you feel? He's like, nothing. She's like, you're definitely gay. Because that's Gabby. Gabby and Carlos talk about being broke and they might have to sell the house. So yes, so Justin and her inter what is it interconnects with the Susan storyline as Susan walks and sees the people in the pool. She sees Justin with Andrew. I don't know if they were naked in the pool. I don't know what they were doing. I
They
don't know if they were
were,
just
because
making out.
they found the people in the pool, and she's like, "Julie
Oh,
Meyer,"
did she
and
pick up
both
the bathing suit?
she did. Both heads go over
Okay.
underwater. She's like, "You get up here right now. You can't stay under there forever." And she looks over a chair and she picks up a gold bathing suit, or tan. I think it was a gold bathing suit, men's bathing suit. So she's thinking Julie's with the guy, and you see one head pop up, and it's this guy that hit on Gabby.
Justin,
And
yeah.
then you see the other head pop up, and it's Andrew. And she goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And she's fumbling, she's tripping over stuff. And he's like, Andrew goes, "I'm not gay. I'm not gay." And then she's like, "It's okay if you are. I'm okay." And she's fumbling, knocking furniture over. "I didn't say anything. I'm not telling anybody." And he keeps shouting, "I'm not gay." And I think this whole episode, the whole
Mm,
theme of this episode was lies, the lies we tell ourselves, the lies we tell other people, the lies that we believe that we tell ourselves.
mhm.
And it ends with all these people in their beds in their houses, and they talk about, like, you see Mike lying in bed, and they talk about going to bed, and you hope that the lie is believable in the morning, or you wait till the next morning. But you see Susan crying in the bed, you see Mike in the bed, you see everyone in their houses laying down. But I think the whole
And
episode was all these lies we tell ourselves, and
and
it's
then the very end, the FBI dude meets up with Noah.
oh
So I'm
yes,
guessing that will lead into something else too. about, I guess, Mrs. Huber and the people that are dead that we don't know. We're getting little tidbits about through all these
Yeah.
episodes. So
When
Deidre and Dana and
wait,
whatever's going on.
he makes a comment. Noah makes a comment. He talks to the guy. He's eating his pie. He basically says he only has. I think earlier he says to Mike because he met with Mike earlier in the episode, and he said, "Look, I have all this money. I have less than a year to live, but don't worry. I'm not taking my money with me. I'm going to help you." And basically, it's when Mike gets released from prison, and you see the guy that he's talking to is one of the police officers or detectives that questioned Susan earlier. And
Yeah.
Noah's talking to him as he's eating pie, and he's going about his life. And the guy's talking about his life. He said, "What can I do to make you happy? What would it take to make you happy?" In other words, he's going to bribe the guy, and he's going to clear Mike.
Hmm.
And he kind of leaves right there. He's eating pie in the diner. This diner appears so many times in the first season. I'm curious. I don't remember if it appears anywhere else in the later seasons, but it's a
Right.
big part of this first season. So, and the pie.
Yeah, yeah. So I
But
think we only have like 9 episodes left, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
I forgot so much of this intrigue and
Hmm.
storyline. I loved. Again, I liked. What was it? Karen. What was her last name? McCluskey.
McCluskey.
Karen McCluskey.
Yeah.
I love her character. I love how she's developing the story. And again, you forget some
Yeah.
of these people are integral parts, and I forget
You know,
all
we
this.
haven't seen Edie in any of these episodes,
No, Edie
which
hasn't
is
been here
kind
for a
of
while.
crazy.
I think the last
Yeah.
time she was there was where she almost got killed. No, she was there with she almost got killed, but I think she was last there with Felicia, and it was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole the memorial service, I think, for Martha.
I forget how Edie gets back involved too in this mess, but she does somehow.
She will. We'll see it soon, but I'm really
Yeah.
interested to see how it all develops and turns out again because it's been probably what 10 years since we last saw it. I think.
It's probably, yeah, I mean
Yeah,
2004, so
yeah,
what's that,
long time.
20? Is it 20 years? It's
To the
20
end.
years.
Yeah, probably 20 years.
No, but
I think I
the
watched it
first
once.
season though.
Yeah, I watched it once since it aired. I watched it all over again, but that was again more than 10 years ago. So
Yeah, I don't think I've ever rewatched it, so this is the first time I'm actually rewatching it in 20 years. So
yeah, it's
yeah,
fun to see what
my
happens.
memory is very sketchy. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Patreon subscribers. If you're on Patreon, you're the ones that are seeing this, so we appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thank you for our free side if you join us eventually. Um, Subscribe, like, and comment. Did you watch Desperate Housewives? Who's your favorite housewife? Tell us in the comments. Um, Thanks for joining Queers and Soaps. Find us on all the socials. See you later.
Bye.